Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I'm here in London having some hands-on time with Samsung's new 8K QLED television. Now this model number is the Q900R, as I have found through a trademark search just before the South Korean brand actually announced this 8K range at IFA 2018. And it will come in three screen sizes: 65-inch, 75-inch, and also a massive 85-inch version. And this is the 75-inch model, and I've been informed by Samsung that this is indeed a production model running a production firmware of 11.85, which will be the firmware that will be installed on TVs that will be shipping to lucky owners this week. So I will tell you some headline features of the Samsung 8K QLED television, which is the Q900R, and then we'll go through some of my testing to just let you know what I actually found in terms of the measurements and the results. So the headline feature is obviously the native 8K resolution of 7680 times 4320, giving us a total pixel count of 33,177,600 pixels. Whew, ace that. I always knew I had it in me. As the saying goes, there are three types of people in this world: those who are good at math and those who are not. So that is the native pixel count, but in addition to that, we can depend on Samsung's 8K AI upscaling to try and upscale any content to the television, because realistically there is not going to be many 8K content to be watched on the TV. And what Samsung has pitched with its 8K upscaling is very clever. So they will analyze the images that you watch on the TV, and then they will find corresponding images in 8K resolution back in their headquarters in Suwon, South Korea, and then decide on the best algorithm to upscale from sub 8K resolution. Now this is not happening in real time. The 8K images will be analyzed in Suwon, Korea, and then they will be sent back to this TV via firmware update through, I'm not entirely sure about the interval, but it is certainly very thought-provoking and certainly a better way to do things, because they are comparing the images that are being watched by owners, and then they are analyzing it, and they are actually trying to get the source images in 8K, building the database and then building their algorithm. Certainly I will be interested to see it in action, because in theory the upscaling processing will only get better over time, and the more people use this television to watch various content, the better it will actually get. So that is from the 8K upscaling point of view. Now going into other features, this TV is a QLED television, and naturally it uses quantum dot technology. I've managed to bring my Jetty reference grade spectral radiometer down here to capture the spectral power of distribution, and as you can see here, this beautiful RGB waveform is representative of quantum dot technology. And the beauty about quantum dot technology is that it can actually achieve a wider color gamut, not only a wider color gamut, but also a wider color gamut at higher peak brightness, what we term as color volume these days. And looking through various materials, especially with the dynamic and standard modes that Samsung like to use to demo their television, certainly there is no shortage of color volume, there is no shortage of color vibrance, especially at high brightness or luminance, which is a stark contrast to what OLED TVs are capable of, because the current consumer OLED TVs, they still use WRGB subpixel structure, so the white subpixel will be diluting the color saturation at high peak brightness. But there is certainly no problem from the QLED side of things, and if we analyze the subpixel structure here, this TV is using a VA type LCD panel with true RGB configuration, so there's no white subpixel dilution effect that is going to take place on the Q900R here. And naturally, this is a full array local dimming or FALD LED LCD. And when I encounter a full array local dimming LED LCD, one of the first things that I normally do is to count the number of zones. And as you can see from our self-authored custom test pattern, consisting of a small white box crawling horizontally and then vertically against the borders of a black background, I counted 30 vertical columns and 16 horizontal rows, giving us a total zone count of 480 independently dimmable zones on the 75-inch Q900R, and this is the same figure that we have counted on the 65 Q9FN and the 75 Q9FN. So Samsung hasn't actually increased the number of zones, but truth be told, if you increase the number of zones, then the price would go up correspondingly. And I need to tell you that this 75-inch Q900R costs only £7,000 for a breakthrough 8K television. And if you consider that the 75-inch Q9FN, which is only 4K in resolution, was retailing at £6,000 at launch, so the price difference is only £1,000, which makes this quite an appealing proposition if you were considering the 4K Q9FN anyway. So I think the price jump is not too much, but the zone count can't go up that much because Samsung needs to be realistic and keep their prices in check so that some people can at least afford this, rather than putting in as many number of zones and then jacking the price up until no one can afford it. So from the zone count point of view, 480 zones, and the blooming and dimming algorithm is roughly the same as what I saw on the Samsung Q9FN. If I played a clip of Gravity here, I don't think it is as aggressive in dimming down the stars, but you can see the TV still trying to darken the stars and also the lights on Sandra Bullock's spacesuit to try and keep blooming to a minimum. And that is the thing with local dimming. TV manufacturers have to try to balance between outright accuracy, showing all the shadow detail, getting the brightness correct, or focusing on building a better user experience for most people, which means keeping the top and bottom letterbox bars black and keeping blooming to a minimum. And Samsung has chosen to go for the latter rather than adhere to outright accuracy. From what I can tell, the dimming algorithm is not very different from the Q9FN. And occasionally, as I've spotted in this sequence from Pan, there will be some backlight fluctuation as the scene goes from dark to bright. But if I actually feed the TV some native 8K content, there are not many about, but Samsung has managed to capture a few demo files. I mean, the resolution is pin sharp, it's crispy sharp, and it's so real that you can almost touch it. Obviously, from a normal viewing distance, the increase in resolution isn't going to be that much more visible than what you get from UHD or 4K televisions, but up close, you can certainly peer through the screen and really see the objects and the animals and the creatures without actually having to be disgusted by the amount of pixelation or ringing or fizziness. Let's talk a bit about the design of the television then. As you can see, it's a flat slab, and because of the use of directly LED backlighting with full array local dimming, the side of the television is fairly chunky, but then again, we don't really watch TV from the side, so this is not a problem for us. Now, the stand consists of 2 feet at either end of the display, but Samsung has designed it such that the feet can actually be placed closer to the center as well, which will take up less footprint, so that you don't need to go out and buy an extra wide AV rack just to fit this television. Although if you can afford this television, you can probably afford an AV rack that is this wide, and this is just a perfect width, I can tell. In terms of the One Connect box, yes, this Samsung Q900R still uses the external One Connect box, which is extremely appealing because it allows you to hide the cables. But on the 75-inch and also the 85-inch Q900R, the One Connect box has grown in size. The 65-inch Q900R, the size of the One Connect box, I've been informed, is the same as the size of the One Connect box on the 65-inch and 75-inch Q9FN. But on the 75-inch and 85-inch Q900R, the One Connect box has grown in size, and this is because of the power supply required to drive 33 million pixels. Basically, this is an 8K screen with 33 million pixels, so you will require more power from the One Connect box, and so the size has grown correspondingly. Now, if you place your hand on the One Connect box, it will feel quite warm, and one of the issues that I always encounter with having a big hot unit is that it's going to be more difficult to keep it tucked away. On the One Connect box, you can see that there are 4 HDMI ports, and we've been informed by Samsung that HDMI 1 is actually capable of 8K at 30 Hz eventually when a firmware update hits, because that resolution, let's say 8K at 30 Hz, let's say at 8-bit 420, still falls under the maximum data rate of 18 gigabits per second stipulated in HDMI 2.0b. So 8K 30 Hz 8-bit 420 is still possible on HDMI port 1, but obviously I think people who want to spend this sort of money on 8K television at this moment in time will be concerned about the arrival of HDMI 2.1. And the good news is that I've been informed by Samsung that they will find some way to provide a complementary upgrade to One Connect box with true HDMI 2.1 chipset, which is capable of, let's say, 48 gigabits per second, but they still haven't decided on how this exchange program will operate, whether you need to put a claim in, whether they will send it out to you automatically. That is still not clear, but Samsung has at least verbally promised me that they will be issuing complementary upgrades to the One Connect box, so that HDMI 1 at the very least will have HDMI 2.1 maybe next year. I managed to calibrate this TV very briefly here in London. SDR color accuracy is reasonably accurate. The average error is less than 2, and the skin tones look fairly natural and realistic in the selection of content that I watched in SDR, just 1080p Blu-ray, and the upscaling worked reasonably well, so it doesn't look noticeably worse than a corresponding 4K television. For HDR, when I put it in movie mode or in the Cal night mode, the maximum peak brightness that I could get at D65 white point after calibration is around 1,500 to 1,600 nits on a 10% window. And if you actually put this TV into dynamic mode, it is capable of hitting 3,300 nits very, very briefly, maybe about 4 or 5 seconds before dropping down to a much lower peak brightness level. But calibrated, the peak brightness I've measured on the Samsung 75-inch Q900R running a production firmware of 11.85 is 1,500 to 1,600 nits, which is not very different from what we measured from the 65-inch Q9FN 4K QLED television. I also ran a number of my normal test scenes and also video processing tests and motion tests on this TV, and in an essence I don't think there's too much difference from the Q9FN except for the gradation. So I'll start off with the motion. In terms of motion, you need to enable Auto Motion Plus to try and get 5.5 pull down so that slow pans in 24 frames per second movies will look smooth enough. If you turn Auto Motion Plus off, then you'll start seeing some judder across slow pans. And if we put up a motion resolution test pattern, if you engage Auto Motion Plus with the correct settings, then you can achieve a very high motion resolution of 1080 lines. And if we turn on BFI for 50 Hz content, the Q900R is still applying some forced interpolation, so you will be seeing some soap opera effect and also some interpolation artifacts. This is something that is the same as what we observed on the Samsung Q9FN, and indeed all 2018 Samsung televisions. One improvement that I saw over the Q9FN is in terms of the gradation, and I'm not entirely sure whether this is due to the higher pixel count of 8K versus 4K. When I put up the scene from The Martian, the sky in the background did not look as posterized, even with digital clean view switched off. Digital clean view I found on 2018 QLEDs actually is a sort of a decontouring filter that can smooth out the gradation, but it will also entail some reduction in fine detail because there is noise reduction baked in as well. But even without the help of digital clean view, I can see that the Samsung 75-inch Q900R is rendering the sky in the smoothest I've seen any Samsung HDR TV render, so it's fairly smooth. Obviously, if you enable digital clean view, it will smooth it out even more, but I found that on the 75-inch Q900R, I didn't even need to engage digital clean view, and I'm happy with the gradation. This is again another fantastic TV for gaming. I measure input lag at 16 milliseconds in game mode, and the good thing about Samsung's 2018 QLED televisions, including this Q900R, is that there is no risk of burn-in at all, and there is VR or variable refresh rate support, and also Samsung has provided a game motion plus mode where you can apply some interpolation to your in-game content to achieve higher motion clarity without increasing the lag by too much. Do you need to be here or something? Or?
Yeah, I'm sure we're setting up. Sorry.
Sorry?
Sorry, we're just setting up for the evening.
All right, okay. Can I just have 5 minutes? There's no... So in summary, the 75-inch Q900R is a 8K display, the first one in the world that is of a television variant from the South Korean brand. Now, I think some of you will ask, why is 8K necessary now? But that's the evolution. We had the same argument when we went from SD to HD. We had the same argument when we went from HD to 4K, and we will have the same arguments when we go from 4K to 8K. The fact is that eventually all the best picture processing features are going to be reserved for the 8K models. And so from that point of view, it is not a question of if, it is a question of when. And Samsung obviously has jumped on board with 8K. And from the pricing side of things, I can't fault them. This 75-inch Q900R only costs £1,000 more than the corresponding 4K version. And at least from the gradation side of things, I believe that there is an improvement. And the normal strengths of Samsung QLED is always at play here. You can get a very low input lag, class-leading input lag, in fact, of 16 milliseconds. There is no risk of burn-in at all, regardless of how many hours you watch news channels, regardless of how many hours you play video games. And the anti-reflective filter implemented on the Samsung Q900R is top-notch as well. It is the most effective on the market, and in a bright room, together with the light output that this TV is capable of, it makes it the best bright room display on the market. This is Vincent Thiel here, reporting from London at Samsung's QLED 8K First Look event. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.